Good morning, America. We are here today. It is 4/17 of 2021. Let me go ahead and get the music cut here by Pink Floyd. Today, I am coming to everyone to talk about a very serious subject. Something that I have actually been working on with other people that I've been wanting to talk about here for the last several weeks, but we wanted to get all of our ducks in a row, and I wanted to get as much information so that anyone that views my podcast here can actually go through and look this up themselves and find the information themselves. This not only affects my children, it affects your children. This is a issue that is of very, very grave matters that needs to be addressed. It's something that I think people are slowly starting to see, depending on what state you're in, all over the United States. And it affects all of us to the ground up. Um, it has no political bias to it. It has nothing to do with the color of your skin. It has nothing to do with your religion, and it has nothing to do with how you live your life. But what it does have to do with, it does have to do with your children and the way that your children see and are being educated about America and how they see themselves and how they see history, where we came from, who we are. And it's being destroyed in our education systems from the college universities all the way down to pre-K, folks. So today I'm going to present to you a very serious matter called CRT, which in Long's term means the cultural race theory. Now, maybe some people have heard of this, others probably have not. So let's talk about what CRT is. Well, CRT is an ideology which evaluates race at the most important aspect of a person's identity. It preaches racial oppression as the ruling factor that explains everything about American history and society. It teaches that white supremacy surrounds us and that whites have an advantage over any other race or skin color. I equate this issue that's going on in America as what was happening in the 1920s, all the way up to, if you want to go into Germany, with Adolf Hitler, where Hitler would look at individuals and he would say, the superior race is all people with blonde hair. They're the most superior race. That's what I equate this to. Now, if you have children like I do, I have 3 young daughters. One is going to be going into the 3rd grade. The other one will be going into kindergarten. And my third is not yet in school. And I'm going to tell everyone this from the bottom of my heart. If you have children, please, 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 I'm asking you, pay attention to this. This is a serious matter, and it's happening everywhere. I don't care who you are. This is a serious issue that's going on and being taught in schools, and you may not even be aware about it. So we're going to get into this. Not only this, what I went through with what CRT does, but it does 2 things, and you're seeing it right now in the American media public, especially on the news. It teaches 2 things to every person, especially our children, that there are 2 groups. You're either a racist or you're anti-racist. And I'm going to break this down so that this has a more understanding to it. CRT is being taught in every school in America. It doesn't matter what state you're in, nor what school district you're in. It's in every school system, and it comes with the whole Common Core teachings. And not only is in universities, it's in every university throughout the United States. But it starts in schools all the way down right now. It's being taught even at the most bottom level, kindergarten. It teaches our children to have no hope, to have no aspirations, and most of all, that America was founded on lies and tyranny. And I'm sure people have heard about and seen everything that's going on in the mainstream media. America is being depicted as an evil, bigoted, racist country. And folks, that is not the case. Is there racism out there? Sure, there is. There is hate anywhere you go. But there's also plenty of good out there as well. And unfortunately, you're never going to be able to stomp everything out. And that's my point. We can only teach the things that are important, the things that uplift people, and the things that make people more educated and aware of their surroundings, aware of their environment, and make them a smarter individual for the future. That's the only way we succeed. And one thing that we have to do is stop this that's being taught in schools. So I'm going to continue on here. We have a lot. And for anyone who's watching this, if you think, like me, I live here in Ohio, if you think this isn't happening in Ohio, you're sadly mistaken. So here we go. So people like you and me, normal American citizens, we work a regular 9-to-5 job. You pay your taxes. You're the average citizen. You don't get into trouble. What are we paying a price for someone even like me talking about CRT? Well, you can actually have a pretty steep price put against you. I myself could even lose my job. CRT basically could make you lose your livelihood, your income. It could have a negative aspect on your community, just for me speaking out on this. But I guess I have to ask people as I'm going on about this, at what length would you go for your own children or your child? What lengths would you go to make sure that you could save somebody from all the negative things that's I'm about to get into here? I know I would do anything for my children. I hope you do too. Benjamin Franklin, and I'm going to read a quote here. At the time of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, he made a very true statement today, and I hope that I hope other people have heard this before. He was quoted as saying, "We all must hang together, or most assuredly, we shall all hang separately." At the time of the Declaration of Independence, that statement holds so many truths to it. And I think it still rings very true today, and it probably rings even louder at this pivotal junction of what's going on. So, critical race theory, it was adopted, if you want to know where it came from, it was adopted in the 1920s in Germany. It was a Marxist group. It was started at the Frankfurt School in Germany. Its one purpose, if you don't know what a Marxism is, or a Marxist, it's the practice of communism, folks. And nothing ever good comes from communism. Anything with an ism behind it is never good. History has shown that. So after World War II, what happened? Many of these teachers that were part of the Frankfurt schools, as the war was coming down, a lot of them migrated. And where did they migrate to? Here to the United States. And a lot of them went smack down into New York. So what did they do? when they got to America? Well, it was pretty easy. They went in and they started teaching again, and they went into where? Western universities. And that's where this whole issue that we're seeing now today has compiled from. It's like a petri dish, if you think about it in that aspect. It started out as a small mass, and now it's grown to something that's out of control. So the people that came over and went into these universities, they seen what capitalism was here in the United States and still is today. Well, what do we know about communism? It hates capitalism. Anything about people with capitalism succeeding, having hope, loving their country, earning an honest living from hard work and sacrifice, they view as wrong. And in viewing something as wrong, what's the best thing that you got to do if you're a Marxist? You want to tear America down from the inside out. And that, my friends, is what's going on in our school systems today. And that's why we're going to talk about this today. And I am talking about this because it's a serious subject matter. So, as this is happening, and it's been happening today, it's grown. And the ideological aspects of Marxism in colleges has grown. And it's grown to the point now that you're seeing it. You're seeing it every day, folks. There's an attack on capitalism. There's attack on our school education system. There's attack on Western culture in general. It's all viewed as bad. We're tyrants. America was founded as a tyrant on tyranny. That's what they're claiming. So my question is, everybody, how is CRT taught in schools today? And what are the signs of the problems? Well, here we go. I'm going to break this down because this is a serious thing. CRT teaches a subject called whiteness. If anyone's ever heard of this before, I'm sure they have. It's out there everywhere. You hear it under white privilege. It's in there all the time. You hear it under race debates all the time. It teaches that whites have all the power over minorities and that the minorities have none. The CRT curriculum that's being taught in schools right now, and you can look it up, it's being taught. It takes that narrative and it flips it around and it makes it to a narrative of anti-racism on the working class as a revolt. And that's what it comes down to. It basically states that if you have to rise up against anything that is considered white culture or white people. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but it also goes a step further than that. Because if you break it down, it also teaches that other minorities have advantages over others, which in itself is creating racism. You're still educating people on racism. Here's a great example. What's been going on in the news media right now with Asian American culture here in the United States? There's been an attack on them. People are getting, and I mean elderly people, young people, people minding their own business in cities and streets and suburbians. I mean, you have Asian Americans getting assaulted in the streets. That's wrong on so many levels. That's wrong. To anybody, that's wrong. But this is all being taught in CRT. It's not just whites. It's being taught against all minorities, against one or the other. So instead of combating racism in school, it's becoming a breeding ground. CRT is almost completely mainstream media, folks. It's everywhere. You're seeing it everywhere. You can't turn on your TV, your radio, your social media outlets. Heck, it's even in newspapers. I just seen a column here the other day in the Washington Post all about race baiting. It's sick. CRT is being delivered as a racial injustice. And it's it's building mass hysteria. I mean, we see everything now is racist. You can't do anything now. And what does someone say? It's racist. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to give some examples of what is going on across America. And the first place I'm going to take everyone to is the college universities, the dreaded college universities. I went to college. Now, where I went to college at, this wasn't a really big issue. I very rarely ran into it, but it has progressed. That was 20 years ago. And it has progressed worse now than ever. I don't even want to think about when my children go to college. And for the parents that are out there who have children that are in college now, please pay attention to what those professors in these universities are teaching your children. Pay attention. Get involved. I know it's the point in their lives where you have to loosen the reins. Please, I'm begging you, pay attention to what's going on at these universities that these kids are getting an education from, because they might be getting brainwashed with this curriculum that's out there. So please get involved. So I'm going to read an article here. This is by John McWhorter. He is from the Center of American Studies at Columbia University, and he wrote this about what's going on with CRT. He writes, "A third wave anti-racism exploits modern Americans' fear of being thought racist, using this to promulgate an obsessive, self-involved, totalitarianism, and unnecessary kind of cultural reprogramming." This is what's going on in our schools. It's a reprogramming step. And everyone is feeling the wrath of this. And it's important for parents to pay attention. I'm going to give a next example here. There was a study on whiteness. This was on the news. And you can even go to the National Museum of African History. It's on display there on how if you're white, you're automatically a racist. Is this the type of things that we want to go out there and teach people? Absolutely not. But it's on full display, folks. Princeton University. How many people know anything here about Princeton University? It's a private university. It's a very elite university. If you can get into Princeton, you're the cream of the crop, as they would say. I find this one really amusing to a degree. Who helped found Princeton University? I know the answer to that. A lot of people might not. Well, that person that was associated in helping found it and had a lot of connections with Princeton University, well, that would have been Woodrow Wilson. And how many people know anything about Woodrow Wilson? Woodrow Wilson was one of the racist individuals here in America. There was a lot of issues and a lot of hot topics brung up by Woodrow Wilson, and he was one of the founders of Princeton University. At Princeton University, the university staff and faculty was petitioned by a large letter for demands by students there, the student body. And I'm going to quote them for what it said. It said, "Anti-blackness is a fundamental to America." The demand letter has lots of examples of ways to make the university less racist. Again, I don't know how you're going to make a university less racist when it was founded on racist principles. Taft University. Taft University, if no one knows about, Tufts University. Tufts University here a couple months back, they threw $25 million because, again, I've made this comment before. We all know that throwing money at a problem fixes everything. It does not. $25 million in the effort to become an anti-racist institution. Does anybody know anything about Tufts University? I do, again. We did our homework and our research here. So Tufts University, um, it was created and founded in 1852 is when it was established. It was founded by Christian Universalists who opened the university to basically it was created as a non-segregation institution for research and arts. That college has some of the best displays of artistry in the nation. A lot of very good artists come out of that university. So I guess my question again, because this just goes against the grain of what the college was founded for. So what are you exploiting artists now? Are you saying that artists and artistry are racist? Because they go on in their column here and say that the $25 million was basically to target the arts and the arts on campus to make them racially acceptable. They're religious paintings, they're religious statues. When did God become racist? When did art become racist? Any type of art. And I mean any type of art. When did art or art majors become racist now? It's getting out of control. Here's another one here. Race, racism, and law. It was a website that was opened up in 1995. The website goes through law schools in different states, and it gives them scores and performance ratings. Some of our best lawyers in the United States out of these law schools that is getting rated by this website, you're telling me all of them are racist now? This website and the people that go through and do these scores and performance ratings on law schools stated in a post here a couple weeks ago that reviewed all the schools in the United States by color. Not about their scores or where people are standing with understanding the law, because God knows with things going on in the world today, especially with police reform, you would think we would focus on actually following law and order and making sure that the people that are going into these jobs understand and have all the tools necessary to do their jobs and perform their jobs correctly for the public. Instead, we've got a place here rating the schools by color, not by performance now. And here's the interesting part. Here's their quote for this. The higher the score, the more inappropriately white the school is. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but when I see lawyers and law enforcement at any level, I just don't see white people out there in these jobs. I see African Americans. I see people of all different race and color. I see Asian Americans. I see Indians. I see lots of people that go into law enforcement or, attorney law or any of that. It's not just one race. I mean, my God. Here's another one. Barra University in Kentucky. This happened on March 17th of 2021. This year. They held an event casting white censorship or Trumpism as terrorists. They did this via Zoom and then had an outside gathering for anybody that I guess was white. They're against you. This doesn't make any sense. The things that people are complaining about is the same thing that they're preaching about. You can't preach about racism and then deliver racism. Two negatives don't make a positive. The University of Washington, they threw money at what they called the counter health impacts of racism. And they established what was called the Center of Activism for the Center of Anti-Racism in Nursing. The university states that this was done to address symptomatic racism in healthcare. Now, I don't know about anybody else or any of your viewers that watch my videos or anyone that has half a brain and does their own research or lives their own life, but I'm pretty sure that when I go see my doctor or my family physician, the last thing that is on my mind is my doctor a racist? I am pretty sure the last time I went into a hospital, that was the furthest thing from my mind was, is the ER racist? They're there to save lives, folks, to treat you. They get paid a paycheck like anyone else in America for doing a job. They don't care what skin color you are. They don't care what religion you are. They don't care what ethnic base you come from or what language you speak. These are the types of things that CRT is teaching. That's at the college level. So let's get to CRT in the public school system. I mentioned to you earlier that this was here in Ohio, and we're going to get to that. So the Heritage Foundation, if anyone has ever heard of the Heritage Foundation, it's a research and educational institute in Washington, D.C. They advance the principles of free enterprise, limited government, and individual freedoms. They also have kept a very close eye on the whole critical race theory, CRT, that's going on in the public schools. And a former educator, Gloria Lanson Billing, she's been keeping a very watchful eye on CRT with a lot of other educators here in the United States. And she has a quote that she wrote up about CRT. I'm going to read it to everyone. It says, critical race theory sees the official school curriculum as culturally specific artifact designed to maintain a white supremacist master script. It's basically stating again that they're using what is racism and they're turning it into racism again in schools, teaching racism. Only they're targeting specific groups. With every state's educational system getting serious about racism, because everything is being targeted and promoted as racism, we hear it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, on every outlet you can imagine, on TV, on social media, you name it. A mass reprogramming in the educational system is taking effect. So I gave an example. I live here in Ohio. So we're going to break down here in Ohio, since I'm a resident of Ohio. And for anybody else that's here in Ohio that has children, grandchildren, so on and so on, that's in school, it doesn't matter what level you're in, this is what's happening in the Ohio schools. So the Ohio Board of Education created what's called the Anti-Racist Allyship Starter Pack. If anyone sees any of your children come home with this, please start diving deep into it, because I'm going to go through what is in that curriculum right now. This targets history and social studies. It targeted those two faculties in school. This packet is a list of educational books and teachings for the student. There is several books I'm going to give you here and why this is such a bad thing going on in schools. Are you ready? One such example is titled the book called The Souls of White Folk. It's by the author W.E.B. Du Bois. In this book, Du Bois makes claim, and I'm going to quote his book, "Whiteness is the stone idol in the mind of white people in America that must be smashed to pieces like the idols of pre-Islamic Arabia." He also states, and I quote, "There is no absolution possible." That book, I've taken a look at it. All it is stating that if you're white, you're racist. That that all whites in America have caused racism for every minority. I've read and looked at the book, folks. It's basically saying if you're white, you need to be smothered and smashed out. You're the problem. This is what we want to teach our kids in school. This is what they're teaching your kids in school. This is on the read book activities in these packets. We got more. Here's another book in the starter pack. It's titled "How White Women's Tears Threaten Black Existence." Should I continue? Here's another one. "When Feminism is White Supremacy in Heels." The author is Rachel Elizabeth Cargill. Should I go on? We've got a list of books here. This is what your kids are being taught. Here's another great one. "Forget looting. Capitalism is the real robbery." Wow. I don't even need to say anything about that. Now this one is not only in Ohio. This one is actually on the Oregon's reading list for CRT. Are you ready? Like, we're already not dumb in the United States when it comes to math. Here we go. Let's throw this one out here for our teachers and faculty to teach children. Ready? "A Pathway to Equitable Math Instruction. Dismantling Racism in Mathematics" instruction book. This book was a 200-page basically guide for teachers on how showing your work in mathematics can be racist. Are we serious? Now math is racist. We already have students, because of the pandemic, that haven't been going to school, and now you're teaching that math is racist? Or showing your work, a student showing its work in math, that's racism? Folks, this is being taught in Ohio, in other school districts across the state. And it's not even in Ohio, it's in other places in other states as well across the United States. This is what they're teaching in critical race theory. Please get involved in your kids' education. Go to your local school boards. Find out what they're teaching the kids, what's in the curriculum. This is just a small part of it. I'm going to continue. This goes for the working class as well for this one. This one was passed. It was a resolution here in the state of Ohio. The resolution requiring, and I quote, "Training for all state employees and contractors working with the Department of Education to identify their own implicit bias." Do you see how they use the word implicit bias there? They're wanting you to turn yourself in and basically guilt you that doesn't matter what color of skin you have, you're a racist. That's just in Ohio. I'm going to take you someplace else now. Let's go clear out someplace else. Let's look at California. And if you think it's bad here in Ohio, let's look at California's educational system. So in California, there is a new ethnic studies. It's out. It's called the Liberated Ethics Studies. In these studies in California, the Board of Education has basically restructured American history. And I quote from the California Board of Education out there that it's basically what they're doing is creating a narrative medicine. A narrative medicine. So basically, it's radical healing and even a way of life. This is them. This is what I'm quoting from them. They have stripped the factual historical events, and basically what they've done here, folks, the goal is to reimagine America as they deem fit. The hell with the history, the hell with the way society was shaped. That's all bad. Everything in the United States was formed, according to them, on a lie. Goodbye to the teachings of the American founding fathers. Goodbye to the way the Declaration of Independence came about and was signed. Early settlers. Goodbye, Martin Luther King's teachings of equality and speech and teachings. Goodbye with all of that. They have basically stripped all the important historical aspects of what made the United States because they feel that it's not correct, it's not worth their time, and it's racist. I'm going to continue. Let's get with with this one here. So they also teach out there with this new liberated ethics study, and this is all the schools. This curriculum now is being taught in all of California schools on every level. They also are teaching how white Christians killed Native American heritage. It was titled in their teachings of these books. It's titled "The Revenge of the Gods." Basically, the California Board of Election went as far to say, and I quote, quoting them again, "The ethics studies curriculum urges students to chant to the Aztec deity of human sacrifice." Now, you want to talk about weird and sending mixed signals to to kids with about education or religion or individual state rights? Whew. Oh boy, you got a big problem there. So those are just some of the things that's going on. Those are multiple examples that I just gave everybody here about what CRT is and what it's doing to kids in school. What was supposed to have been that you keep hearing about how we got to kill racism and educate in schools. No, they're not. They're teaching racism on racism. Now, I'm here giving this information out because, again, I have my own children. I care about my children's future. I care about every kid's future. For any parent that's out there that's got kids, I don't care if you're a parent taking care of your children's grandchildren or vice versa or whatever. Please get involved in what's being taught to our children. I'm not on here trying to get viewership. I'm actually going on a limb for talking about this. But I'm not going to have someone silence me because they don't agree with me. This is about your kids. This is about what's being taught to your kids in schools, in universities. And the reason they're doing it is an indoctrination. Because you got people in America that see America as bad. You know, I'm a veteran, and I've said this before. And I'm going to leave everybody with my own little quote here. It is better to fight the enemy on their land and their turf than have the problem come to your front door. Unfortunately, the problem is at our front door. And it's in our school systems with your children and my children. And I'm asking everybody that watches this video, get out there and start looking it up. Get out there and start asking questions to your school members, your school board, the faculty. Get involved in what they're teaching. Please. If you think things are getting bad now, again, I'm going to quote Glenn Beck, the house is on fire. and our children are in it. So please, get out there and look this up and get involved. I'm Charles Nash. This is another episode of Political Theater. I appreciate everybody for watching. I know I went over a little long here, but this was a serious topic, and I think it's one that everyone needs to be aware of. So please leave your comments. I have no issue with anyone that wants to talk or discuss anything, rather publicly or privately. Drop us a line. I'm also on Facebook as well. So again, I'm Charles Nash. This is Political Theater, and I hope everyone has a great day and a good weekend.